Our discussion today is on break my heart for what breaks yours. And it's a way of praying that God's concerns would be our concerns. Fortunately for us, my talk is finished. Just walking around here, we have seen enough concerns, isn't it? So I may not even need to spend a lot of time on it. But just to mention that it's true, just to tell you that Joshua is not young. I was chairman 1975, 76. So when he tells you the university, you realize he's not as young as he's pretending. Yeah, and then when I left campus, we used to leave campus in June. I left, I was finishing 77, mid-77, and I left in June, and by September I was invited to speak in the university. And from speaking in the university, September 77, for the last 42, is that 42 years? I have never stopped. I speak, and that has been, as the universities have grown, I must have been to close 15, 20 universities this year, from January to now. And I've had the privilege of this last semester going to universities. When I was told, I was invited, I got a letter to Kebabi. I said, where is that? Never heard of it. And it was good to just go right up towards the border of Uganda and find a fantastic new facility. And I'm talking to Vincent in the process, that there may be no classroom here, just walk to Kebabi and see the kind of outfit. Has anybody been to Kebabi? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Brand new. I was in the worship place. Any campus would want to have something like that. And because they don't have all the buildings, the place looks new. And I said, what did happen? It just sounds like the government went in the middle of nowhere and put very new brand facilities. So sometimes they can ask, how come here there is no school? It's not that the money is not being spent. It's not being spent somewhere else. The issue we can ask is that right priority? Should we be putting so much money in the university? But if you're not careful, you start thinking that your tax is going nowhere. I think our biggest problem are two: corruption and prioritization. So that when somebody wonders, I was in Goikobabi, I was in shock when Brother Chamwanda, one of my friends, focus friends in Kisumu, says you pick him that Bugoma is my place, I'll pick you at the airport. So he picked me at the airport, and I lived in Kisumu in the 80s. We were the ones who started the focus branch in Kisumu, 1987-88. And so I know how to go. Then he started taking me towards Busia. I said, no. This is not the way to Bugoma. He said, just wait, just sit and wait. Sure enough, after Luanda, he cut across nowhere. Those roads did not exist in the 80s. And we're in a brand new tarmac, all the way to Mumias, into Kebabi. And I keep saying, people asking, where is the government putting money? How did that road ever come? And it's unbelievable. Then after that, I was invited, still last semester, I was invited to Kaimosi. Again, I left Kaimosi a teacher's college. Now it's a university. And I was going to speak to the final, it was the elders Sunday service. So there are people finishing, and the others who have even finished earlier. And again, a friend of mine whom I met used to be in Masida Muriro. So when I was a student, they used to invite me to Masida Muriro. So he's the one who tells me, yeah, there's a new campus. I'll come for you at the Kisumu airport. So again, I arrived in Kisumu and he's there. Again, I know how to go to Kaimosi. Before we reach Majengo, he starts standing in. I said, where are you going? Because I know where we should be going. He took me, I said, is this one take us out? He says, we will just see us at Chamagogo. Those from Western will know where Chamagogo is. And we just went, go boy. The Fichorochoro that we could not use at all is now Atamak Road. And I said, there's something wrong with our newspapers. Something terribly wrong. I have never heard of it. People keep asking, where did the Eurobank money go to? Yet in Kakamega and Vihiga, the Fichorochoro routes that were never the main roads are now tarmac. Another time I do consultancy work. The other day I was in Machakos to facilitate for the Desert Authority, Eradication Authority. Can't remember the full title of the thing. And so the only people that were welcome there is what we call ASL, the dry places. So everybody came from a dry place, although I was surprised to find somebody from Nyeri. And I asked him why you are here. And he told me that there's a place, Muiga, that is also dry. They get help. And I also found another one from Migori. And I thought they are, but most people are from that direction. So I met somebody from Moyale. I said, how did you come? He says, we used to come from Moyale in weeks. I came in hours. Told me it was tarmac right from the Moyale border to Machakos. He came on tarmac. That's the new Kenya, isn't it? Yeah. And because the newspaper don't talk about it, you have teared the average Christian meeting, and there is no thanksgiving at all. We are depressed. Are you getting my point? Totally depressed. The other day I was on a new program on Family TV that's talking about the economy. And the guy interviewing me starts by talking about all the things that are going wrong. And says, Mzee, you can see the problem. I said, I do not take that kind of line. You want people depressed, never able to thank God. Because as long as you concentrate on one side, you come there totally confused. It's not true. So I told them, the songwriter was very right, who wrote, count your blessings, name them one by one. What will be the result? It will surprise you what the Lord has done. The devil has taught Kenyans to change the song. Count your curses, name them by one. You'll see how much the devil has taken over Kenya. And the newspapers have taken that song. And one of the things I wanted to come to this meeting to tell you is that you can never come out to achieve anything if you take that route. Whenever you feel totally defeated, overwhelmed, it doesn't give you energy. It actually removes energy. It is when you can see clearly the things that are going right and the things that are going wrong, you get encouragement. If that one can achieve, even me, I can achieve. So we need to fight it totally unbiblical for a church that stands and never points out to the things that are going well. For example, we had, before 2002, we had a country where a big part of the population never went to informal or formal schools. Never went. Then Hesabika came and he said there is free education. What happened? Well, I was talking to one of my friends, a Christian teacher, and who from Komarok. She says, Brother Nganga, I don't know what's wrong with Hesabika. I said, what has he done? She says, the people that came, chokoras, now that it's free, everybody turned up. And the classes were not enough. So they had to create classes under trees. And then you are dealing with 100 students in one class. And she was complaining. I said, sister, if you teach 100 students, there will be problems of communication. But at least you know how to write 1 to 10. Before they came, and of course I'm not giving something strange. My wife used to be in social work before she started teaching at Data University. Before that, she has taught there for more than 20 years. Before then, she spent a bit of time in NGO. And she began a children project in Dagoretti, Yanyama, up there. And the children were saying, Mama, all we want is the ability to read the bus number so we can go to beg in Nairobi. Are you getting the point? That in Dagoretti market, there are not many rich people. But you can't go unless you know how to read the bus number. Are you getting my point? So when the children come and you are overwhelmed, the teachers are complaining, the church will not be joining them. You should start by saying, thank you, God, that now people are learning something. But God, can't you help us to do it in a better way? And that's really the message that came. Don't become politicians where when they are in government, they do one thing. When out of government, and the church joins them and becomes political. You go for prayers, and sometimes I can't say amen. Because it is totally and Christian and biblical to ignore what God is doing and only talk about what the devil is doing. You see a demon in every corner. So remember, my topic is what concerns God. And one of the biggest concerns of God is thankless people. People who don't see what God is doing. So I thought I needed to come out very, very clearly as you come. And it's not that I don't see the issues and I'll mention them for them, but I thought that's one of the first things you need to understand. Learn to pick out what God is doing, and in seeing it, start thanking God. But I want us to, I don't have enough time, but I want us to start with a few things, and I want us to interact. I want you to tell me, everybody will be first who contributes, one thing that's going right in Kenya and one thing that's going wrong. In between, we'll see God's concerns. Did you hear the assignment?
Yes.
If we had enough time, you'd break you into groups. But let's assume you're one group. So let's talk. You tell me, whoever stand up tells me, one thing, when they go to thank God, they are grateful it's happening in Kenya. Najivunia kuwa Kenya. And one thing, you are praying to God, it will change, and the sooner, the better. It's open. Yes?
This week I was at a conference where there's a group called the Discipleship Making Movement, and they're basically, it's a move of God among unreached people groups where God has been sending out missionaries, and they've been seeing a lot of people coming to Christ using the Discipleship Making Movement. And I was so happy to hear those reports, because I was like, it seems that the many Kenyans who've been praying for this nation, those prayers are being answered, and it's crazy because miracles are happening, and like whole villages are turning to Christ.
In Kenya?
In this Kenya, and I was just amazed, and I really thank God for that, because again, that opens the frontier for the redemption of those people groups. And so what they are planning now is to take that model and bring it into the urban areas and see how we can see whole communities within urban areas, turning back to Christ, because God has already proven it.
Amen.
So something good is happening, and I thank God. What's going wrong is, when I come to such places, I'm always like, I know there's something called urban migration, but I'm thinking, how do we start now urban to rural migration, so we can take back all the knowledge we've gained by being in this city and go and make better, like our lives in rural areas become more livable, and just bring that prosperity mindset. How do we exchange that?
I can see your concern is, how do we, by the way, as my voice says, the rural poor are poorer, the urban poor are poorer than the rural poor. So one of the best things you can do is remove the urban poor, because although they'll be poor there, they'll be richer. I'm getting the point. And that's something you need to think about. How do you get these people to move from here to the rural area, where they'll still be poor, but a little better? I get your concern. Here, one of the things we should be praying about, and one of the things you should be thanking God. Thank you very much. That's a very good beginning, because I would not have known what you have given us. That's why I thought we should start by sharing, all of us. Somebody else?
This is from my experience from NYS. I feel when I moved around NYS, looking at the facilities we have, the land we have, I've just covered half. But for example, we have close to 95,000 acres in Laikipia.
95?
Yes. We have 600 acres of land in the middle of Nyandarua, Tumaini, ungrabbed. We are putting up right now, it's already a project is ongoing. A very excited commanding officer who is putting up the first certified potato seed center in Eastern Central Africa.
Wow.
And he's the kind of gentleman whom, when people were eating, wakikula waru, you see the bad warus, because he has land, he found this too much land, he tells them, don't throw away the bad ones. That's how he gets seeds. Other people will tell you, procurement have not given us seeds for planting. So I think one of the things I'm thanking God for is that the thieves who've been stealing clearly have not done a good job. We overrate them. They have left And that story is the same for prisons and very many others. So I'm looking at, when I look at what has not been grabbed, has not been stolen, it is way more than what we have lost. And my prayer is that, can it be put to use? Can you stop spending so much of our time chasing those who are running away with our money and spend more time deploying what we already have? That's my prayer.
Wow. Can you see what he has done in one who sweep both? What are we thanking God about? There are some people that are faithful enough to have protected some of the NYS land. And it's still available. What should we be praying about? That we do not concentrate on what is lost until we do nothing about what we actually have. Very good contribution. Yes?
I'm grateful for Kifudha Kibwana and the work that he's doing in Makueni County, that he's able to show it is actually possible to have leadership that is transformational and with integrity. And my prayer is that we will have more leaders that are actually people-oriented. Yeah, actually from the news, and we have had an opportunity to interact with him. For example, the hospital is being built, and also the factories that he's been able to build, and the people engagement.
Is the factory running or is it an idea?
It's running. And actually, his development is people-oriented because he's able to have public participation from the village level, where people are actually the ones who say the project they want to do. They are the ones who approve the project, and the contractors, they are the ones who select those contractors, and you cannot be paid until people approve that you have done a good work. So they give you a certificate, and that is what you use to go and actually claim for the payment for the work that you have been able to do.
And what should we be praying for?
That we have more leaders like that.
Oh, that we have more Kibwanas?
Yes.
Okay, those are, so first of all, we have to be very careful about newspapers, because they make people, you think something is happening, but it's all publicity. Are we together? PR. And they can create it until you think, wow! It's when later you go there, you find nothing. So I think it's good, Kibwana. There's a real mango processing factory actually producing the juices. Am I right? It's actually running. And that one is not his choice. It's the people's choice. And that they are able to control corruption by ensuring nobody is paid without the local people giving a certificate of a completion. I think that's fantastic. Wow. Who else? This side doesn't seem to have ideas. It's not that they don't have ideas, they are not willing to share them with us. So who in this side wants to share something? Yes?
Thank you. What to thank God for is people in leadership, just as Diana has said, both in the secular and religious leadership, who have stood for the truth and what is right. I'm one of the people, even when I'm driving, I always listen to you on YouTube. And I closely relate to you with the late Miles Munro, who did a lot in terms of...
That's not to be included.
Who did a lot in teaching. I also admire people like Bishop Ogide and the likes, people who have stood for the truth and who are speaking the truth. And in the political area, that's why I'm associating with Diana, because somehow I've been a bit involved in some of the things in Makueni, and I know what she is talking about. If you
another aspect he has not mentioned.
Yes, the other aspect I want to mention is before, in the last government, you remember there is a time that he was to be impeached. And actually what had happened is that the then minister, CEC Finance, refused to approve a budget for the county assembly because they had inflated. They went and changed their budget. They wanted a budget which was almost bigger than the one for the entire executive. Of course, for issues to do with traveling and such kind of things. He refused to approve. So the MCAs impeached the CEC and they demanded the governor to sack him. The governor refused, and that's how they went and now impeached the governor. The governor instead petitioned the president to dissolve the county. And out of that, because as we know, the county was not eventually dissolved, but out of that, because what the MCAs were fearing, if they go to a by-election, they will all go home. But they created a respect between the governor and the MCAs, maybe out of fear that from there henceforth, unlike any other county where the MCAs have their way, at least in Makueni, at least for that period that remained, they had to listen now to what makes sense and what is logical, what the people want, not the issues of traveling allowance and all that. My prayer is that we have both as believers and to start with, even at personal level, and also church leadership and political leadership who are able to set such good examples, stand for the truth, teach what is the truth, and also do what is right. God bless.
So again, you can see, okay, Kibwana Aker is a confessing Christian. And he has practically applied it. I was going to say, and maybe this is the right time to say it, if we want to bring transformation, I was telling my friend, this guy was my friend right from his campus days, and I was telling him, there are 3 things in my life I have discovered will prevent you from bringing transformation in my own life, and I believe in lives of many people. And the first one has actually been mentioned. If you have an opportunity and you are too afraid of losing it, you just become paralyzed. The moment you are called governor, these days they also want to be called Your Excellency, and then you realize you are going to lose it, you end up compromising with the MCAs. Okay, the point? So you find clever people with wonderful programs, but it can never happen because they fear that they may be impeached, but that's not even the bigger worry. They fear that the next elections, they will be removed. One of the thing that has happened in my own life is when I decided in consultancy in Shell that I'm ready to be fired. The moment you are ready to be fired, you gain power nobody can have. Because he's supposed to keep frightening you. You know, I'll fire you. Now, in order for you to start comprising, I still remember when I became divisional manager in Shell, and I was trying to bring transformation in logistics and transport. And so the contractors who are, most of the people who own tankers are Asians, Arabs, a few black Kenyans, but those were the people then. And when they realized I'm not playing ball, corruption came earlier, but when they realized they will not be able to corrupt me, the next thing was to get me fired. So there's a story here, a story there. I was always having to defend myself. And one day, I was in middle management. I was not in top management. My boss just called me, and he was very strategic. Called me around 6. You know, whenever we know the way we're working late. So the secretary has gone, and he sat me down in his office. He said, "You know, 2 of us cannot work here together." I said, "But sir, what have I done?" He said, "Since you took over, there's too much noise." I said, "Exactly what the noise about." You know, he's unwilling to tell me that these people who are, when I refuse to be corrupt, they go to him. Now, and they are trying to plead with him to get rid of me. So I'm telling, tell me exactly what I've done wrong. My intention is to deliver. You know, after 1 hour, I actually lost my cool, which is not very regular. But that's how I lost my cool. I said, "You know, sir, we are talking," and I was also gender insensitive. I said, "You know, we are talking like married women." I told them, he was much older than me. You know, so far, I am not clear exactly what I have done wrong and how we can improve it. We're just talking round in circles. He said, "Just hear me. Do you know who I am?" Because I know he is the top 5 of Shell. I want you to know, unless you change, 2 of us will not work here together. Now, obviously, I knew what he was, I guess what he was trying to do is to get me to resign. I went home and told Rebecca, Now I'm very clear. The Lord wants to supply the school fees of our children by another means. Because you see, since he was in the top 5, there wasn't going to be somebody else I'm likely to appeal to. So I didn't know, I'm not known in London. So I knew we would go. The only thing is, God will continue supplying. It's only not through share. And so I stuck there, knowing that I'll be fired in a moment. And he tried. One day I gave some transporter a rate increase. And those days there were no emails. It was telex. The guy telex me. I took the telex. I wrote on top, I agree to this. Please approve. In other words, I agreed for the increase. He wrote on the paper, right on the same telex paper, he wrote approved. So I went ahead and wrote the letters and increased the rate. But the guy was such a big transporter that just that increase alone was in millions. And it was the figure annually was beyond my authority level. I think he must have been really hunting for a reasonable way of getting rid of me. So he just called me, said, who gave you authority to increase rate beyond your authority level? Say, but I told me. When me told you, do you know I could not find in the paper, because I didn't imagine that my boss can refuse something that he had clearly said. I spent that evening, that afternoon, praying, because I knew now he had a right to fire me and it would be legal. No way you'll ever make any improvement until you are ready to lose your job. You are ready to lose your contract. If you get a contract and you want another one, you are powerless. Because you'll be very careful what you do. And that's basically what Kebuda teaches us. That you gain power the moment you are ready to lose it. You lose power the moment you do not want to lose it. And so that's one of the things that has created. When you hear people are making influence, transforming communities, it's simply because they are ready to lose power. Number 2, the thing that has helped me in my transformational process, which is very, very important, is not wanting to get something out of what I'm doing. Whenever you ask yourself, what is in it for me? You know that Kenyan concept. You're always wondering, lakini wewe umelalia masikio, every people are getting money and you are not getting any money. I have written a book called The Secret of Contentment. Now, the moment you are contented, corruption is the opposite of contentment. You can never be correct. You can never be corrupt until you lack contentment. That idea of looking for something, the people come to you and for example, somebody comes to bring you money and it's a time when you have not even finished paying the school fees and they leave you an envelope, when I was your manager is when I started getting an envelope, and you get an envelope fat at the time you need it. My friend, it is very difficult to say no. And the way they put it, there is no, like one of the ones that really gave me trouble was one of my contractors went to Dubai and he came with a gold watch. One for me and one for my wife. Now, and remember, he does not require any help from me at all. It was nothing to do with anything. He just said, I wondered, you have been so helpful to me and I'm buying gifts for others. Why would I leave you out? You are now my friend. This has nothing to do with each other. Now, when I looked at the gift, I thought at least it would be embarrassing to. It's very difficult to tell somebody no, because then you are implying he's corrupt and he doesn't want anything from you. So I actually took the 2 watches, properly packaged, took one to my wife, and Rebecca said, wow, I have never seen a watch like that. And she skin sensitive. Wow, it's gold. She put it on herself and was so excited. It is at night when all of a sudden I started realizing what I had done. I'll never be able to say I do not accept gifts from contractors after accepting the watch. So I decided I'll not wear mine. It was still in the package. Now the trouble in the morning is to tell my wife to return it. Because the trouble is, she has already been excited and has talked about it. That's why you must marry a Christian. Young girl, you hearing me? Because I had to, find a way of telling her that the Holy Spirit could not allow me to have peace. And as long as she's wearing that, I'll have no peace. So let's look for our own money and buy a watch like that, but let's return this one. And I explained, she was able to get it. Fortunately, all the papers were there. The ones we had thrown away, we took it, repackaged it exactly the way it was, and I carried the parcels. And then the next thing was harder. How do you return that thing to somebody who gave you in good faith? So I called one of his managers to my office, and in a long roundabout way explained how I cannot keep it. He said, but Sister Mara, we don't mean it. My boss did not mean it. I said, I am not suggesting he meant anything. The only thing is, it is important to understand you cannot get gifts from your suppliers because they cease to be gifts. And so I finally gave it back, and the person went with it. So when I've written a book on corruption called The Integrity and Litmus of Good Leadership, and I quote the idea. You need to understand that if you want influence, you must reject all gifts from your clients. Because every gift is a bribe. Every gift is a bribe. And I tested that in my work in Shell. I used to be in charge of aviation. And I was always struggling with the captains. They come from Italy, they come with a gift. I told them, I can't accept a gift from you when I'm still in charge of aviation. The day I move out, bring the gifts. In the 1980s, I finally moved out of aviation. Nobody has ever tempted me like this. Me, I thought they were that flowing. Kumbe, they were not gifts. They were bribes. Because you see, remember they always called me friend. They would call someone is calling from Geneva and says, my wife, of course, those were the days of the landline. And my wife says, he is not there. Say, tell him he's a great friend of his, stuck in Geneva. I need his help. Let him call. Now, all those friends, that is years ago. Now we meet and say, hey, Nganga, what happened? I'm still available for the gift. But none of them ever comes. So it's not a joke. All gifts from your clients are actually bribes. And when you understand, the moment you can't accept the gift, you gain an influence and power that will bring transformation. You accept the gift and you lose it. So if you really want this country to be different, you must be contented. Your salary, as little as it is adequate. And when you live up within your means, you gain power. Finally, the third one, which I wanted to share, is that, which is a very, very important thing, you must be ready to die. To me, the biggest problem of Kenya is that we fear death. And the moment you fear death, you are gone. I used to say it, but now I got the evidence that most corrupt people in Kenya are poor people. I used to think that corrupt people are rich, but most corrupt people are poor. And I used to say it without evidence. But when they did the Golden Bag saga, when they did the Golden Bag thing, most of you could remember seeing it on TV, isn't it? Everybody who came, like I still remember that mining guy, looking very poor and retired. And they said, did you sign for the gold? Yes. Did you see it? No. Then why did you sign? Orders from? Any evidence? No. Everybody was saying, you must call more, you must call more, you must call. The judges said, against what? Nobody ever produced evidence that who gave the orders from above. So the people that are ruining our country, they themselves are getting nothing. And so most junior people are the most corrupt people. But they are getting nothing out of it. They are told, give me this, they give. So you need to understand that you need to come to where because what happened, in my case, the moment the first thing they tried to corrupt, they tried to bribe me, it didn't work. The next thing they wanted me to get fired, it didn't seem to work. The next thing was threatening my life. And I've had people putting a gun on the table just to explain that they are not joking. One Kikuyu told me, Nganga, you must understand. Your children, I was going to cancel his contract. Your children cannot eat what mine are not eating. I told him, I understand you. Because all you need is my small car to be passing on the road and with these petroleum tankers, and he only needs the driver to tilt a little of the edge, and my car will be a write-off. So I knew he's not joking. Another one came, told me, are you aware that I'm an SSP? I said, what does that mean? Senior Superintendent of the Police Reserve. Then he produced a card for me that to show him in full uniform and his police card. And he was an Asian. The message is clear. I'll kill you, and there is nowhere you can take me. Then he produced a gun, put it there for me to see. He normally has it. So I don't just see him in a suit. I think he's just a businessman. And it's very clear, the message is clear. If you continue playing around with my contract, it's not a question of bribe or lack of it. You'll be dead. Now you need to understand that the moment you realize your life is at stake, you start talking. Now that is the problem of Kenya. People unwilling to die. And my friend, as long as you think it's a matter of joking around, there will be no transformation in Kenya. And you know something? After they all talked about my dying, see, I'm here. You know, I'm not a ghost. I'm still here. When the Lord does not want you to die, they'll try, but you'll not die. Are we together? Yeah. But if the Lord wants you to go to heaven, surely the earlier, the better. So why are you not ready? And you see, that's the problem of our young people. You see them in focus, how hot for the Lord. They are put in a corner. They will not accept any bribes. We in focus, we teach them correctly. Not a single bribe will they ever accept. But they are the ones allowing corruption under them. And the argument is, it's not me. But you are seeing it happen. You have a way of stopping it, but you don't stop it. And the argument, I am not the one doing it. I have nothing. I can account for my money. You can. But a lot of public money is disappearing. You are capable of stopping it, but you are not stopping it. That's what we need to deal with in focus. To get young people willing to die. And that's what we are lacking. And my prayer is that somehow, as we are talking about all these things, the Kibudha story, where it's very clear, it's actually Uhuru who stopped it, isn't it? Will be something that we get in our mind. It's not theoretical. It's something for real. And my prayer is that will happen. But let me say a few more things about what are the things that concern God. The first one is the deaths that we are seeing. You know, human life is sacred, but it's no longer sacred in Africa. I know that because I was when I was working for Shell, I was covering 10 countries. One of them was Ethiopia. And we were trying to do an account of the deaths that people were dying in the 10 countries, people that were dying through road accidents. And we discovered that in Ethiopia, not many people are dying. So I was in Ethiopia trying to understand and calling a meeting in drivers, of course I was doing an interpreter, to discover what was happening. And I discovered when they were going for fuel from Djibouti or Eritrea. Then Eritrea started fighting. We now did all our fuel from Djibouti. And discovered that when you're on a road and you kill a child, the people just come around and tell him that the price of a child is, a girl is this much, a boy is this much. If you pay it, the police don't come in. So therefore it will not be in the data. So you think nobody is dying, but they are paying for it. In Africa there is a price for life. And by the way, it's not just Ethiopia. You go to northern Kenya, they have a price. Now, that is something that concerns God. Because in the 10 Commandments says, thou shalt not kill. So there's no price you can ever pay. And that concerns God. That's why he put it in the 10 Commandments. The value for life, the sacredness of life. And as long as people think there is a price you can pay for life, this country will go to the dogs. We need to come to know that there is absolutely no benefit worth the life of a human being. That we need to fight it in or wherever, in whichever way, to ensure that people understand that even in Africa, life matters. Because even African lives are God's people. I need to come to and ask, is that an issue that we are dealing with? And what are we doing with it? Just ask yourself, in your area of life, in which way are you showing the value for life? And that there is absolutely nothing. You know, abortion has been the talk the last 2 weeks, isn't it? After the judgment in High Court. I would have to ask Vincent to explain the legal implications of it. But you know, I was very surprised. The things the judges said were things the Christian Lawyers Fellowship told us during the Constitution. That the way we are passing our Constitution has actually opened the way for abortion. And the people say, no, they are cheating you. Now the court has said that the law as it is actually not constitutional. Because the Constitution did not say that abortion is illegal. It says it's only illegal with the following exceptions. So you need to understand that there's something wrong with us. Because we are the ones who passed the Constitution, isn't it? And the church was involved. To be fair to the church, most of the church said they are uncomfortable, isn't it? So you need to understand, when you talk about things that concern God, one of it is the value for human life. Whether you talk about a baby before it is born or a baby after it is born. And it's important that we deal with that. Second thing is self-identity. There seems to be a kind of a problem among us where we do not value ourselves. You know, the average African is looking for the green card to go and become a slave somewhere else. Somebody told me, and I thought, what a tragic way of putting it. During the 19th century, the Americans paid money to come to capture slaves. It was a big job. It was a big issue. That's what William Wilberforce was dealing with. And then they paid heavily to get the children, those our people, to the sugar plantations in America. Today, the Americans no longer have to pay anything. We are paying our own fees to go to become slaves. I asked him, what do you mean? He says that many Kenyans are in the US and they cannot do any job except the menial jobs that slaves do. They wash the old people, everything the Americans can't do, the Kenyans are, and they pay their own fare. So they are now slaves at their own cost. Earlier, they had to pay money to buy the slaves. Now we sell ourselves free of charge. I was in the US speaking in a conference in California, and one Kenyan was telling me about how desperate the Kenyans are not to be taken back. That one woman, a Christian woman, in order to get the papers, went to court and told the judge that she is in US, desperate. Why? She ran away from Kenya. They were trying to circumcise her, and she's a woman over 50. And then I was told by this Kenyan friend of mine, she said that he told the judge, if you are doubting, let me show you. The judge said, no, don't show me. Now, because he was actually pulling up the dress to show that he is properly circumcised. And that's why she ran away. FGM. Now, then she came to church. Before coming to church, she came to the pastor to tell this friend of mine how God was great. She was in the court. Now she has proper papers. What did you do? The pastor asked. She explained. He said, you can't give that testimony in my church. So what's wrong? God was great. God was not great. You are crude. It's very important to understand. We are so desperate to be slaves that we are willing. And remember, this is a saved lady. She went to America for a Christian conference and refused to come back. Are you getting it? Do you see a God who has seen us with no value on ourselves? You know, I've not been to America many times, but I was there for another conference, in a Gideon conference, and one Kenyan came for me. And so some Kenyans gathered together to hear how Kenya is. And they told me, they were saying, hey, you know, things are terrible in Kenya. I said, how do you know? Things are doing well in Kenya. But you see, this negativity of Kenyans never tell them. And I started telling them one thing after the other about what's going wrong right in Kenya. I said, are you serious? You know, another person who, I think it was my daughter, who went for an exchange program in the US. And everybody was telling her, you're not going back to Kenya, are you? Said, yes. She was on a day-star exchange program. And said, you can't go back, can you? I said, why would I not go back? After all, the exchange program is so that an American came to Daystar, my daughter went there. I said, no. And these are Christians advising her to abscond. Because like, America is a heaven. You can't go back to earth, can you? Something is seriously wrong. And we who are here to bring transformation, one of the things that concerns God is that idea that we are people of a lesser God. We need to find out positive self-identity. How shall we get it? How do we understand that? You know, my wife likes putting it. She says, we are the kind of people who go where the green is grass rather than make green grass where we are. Am I communicating? You don't know that you can get where you are, the grass can become green. It's lack of identity, self-identity. And that certainly concerns God. Because he created the black people, didn't he? And you need to find out, isn't there something you can do so that you do not want to move away? Because where you are, there's something you can do to bring the grass to become green. And to me, that's something that concerns God. So, I'm trying to answer the question. When you're talking about transformation, what are we talking about? It's to where you make the people you are dealing with to have a positive self-identity. And that's something that's not true. Many people are looking for, if they get a green card, they will never come back. Green card into slavery. And you pay your own fare. The third thing I wanted to talk about is what the African calls Utu, humanness. Where you are a human being, you value human beings, and not just a question of death and the sacredness of life, but the humanness. You know, I was told a story that I thought was very tragic. In America, they were trying to do a study, and they sent it to many young people, and they told them, if you are near a river, fast-flowing river, just watching, then your dog fell into the river, and it's a fast-flowing river. Then at the same time a stranger fell. You are a good swimmer, but you can't save both. Which one will you save? 70% of the American kids said they would save their dog. I said, are you serious? What happened to the person? But he's a stranger. But the dog is my friend. Are you getting the message? Yes. That you would save the dog, because that's a friend, and let the human being flow with the river. What about us? What about our children? What about the average graduate? Between human life, and maybe not a dog, maybe for us it's a cow, but really, the animal doesn't quite matter. When we talk about transformation, it's where we come to have Utu, to value human life to the extent that you do anything, the dog can die, so that you save human life. The third one, which I think we are losing, is the famous community spirit in Africa. Oh, that's, everybody talks about it. But you know, it's no longer there. We're no longer there. That's why somebody will wash the rubbish out of his compound and throw it on the street. Because as long as his compound is clean, they don't mind what happens to the neighbors. Have you seen that? Somehow, the community sense, where you don't just look after yourself, you are looking after the whole community, is something that's no longer real. You know, people want private solutions to community problems. So if your road is very, very bumpy and full of potholes, you buy a 4-wheel drive. You don't change the road. We are always trying to get private solutions to community problems. And you know, community solutions are cheap. Like if you buy yourself the 4-wheel drive and the road is still bumpy, you end up with a lot of costs. What about if you have a water problem, so you get a borehole? What about if you could end up with a dammed water and you pipe it to the community? Am I communicating?
Yes.
Transformation is where you look for community solutions to community problems rather than private solutions to community problems. And that's something, there are many, many solutions you have. In other words, don't try, when there is no school, you don't take your children to Turi. You create a solution so that all the people in your neighborhood get a school. And we could go on. My time is up. We could talk about empowering love. We could talk about dignity of labor. It's a big problem. Most people in Africa do not look for labor as a solution. We want to get free things. Many of us have read the book by Carson, Think Big, and the story he gives of when the father left them. They were in real serious trouble. So what did they do? They decided that they would look for help from social welfare. But they were so embarrassed about getting help that they were doing it very privately in Eden. They finally actually gave up and decided the mother would do 3 jobs rather than get help. I keep saying in Kenya, if you said all jobless people are going to get that 1,000 shillings a month, people earning 40,000 would also resign. You see, the 40 you have worked, the 30 is free. They would rather be jobless and get the free 30,000. Am I right? That's something that certainly concerns God. When you want free things, I consult in all industry, and I still remember asking some of the people I was working with to find out about the Shachagwan incident. You remember Shachagwan after somewhere near Mau Summit? Do you know why people, over 100 people died? You know why they died? There was, just so that you get some details, the truck was going to take fuel in Goma, in Zaire, and left Mombasa. They actually taken Mombasa. And they were issuing a 50,000 liter tanker. Then along the way, the driver ate something that disagreed with the stomach. So he started diarrheaing. So every few kilometers, he needed to stop the vehicle and run to the bush. So around Shapshagwen, he needed to go to the bush. So he moved the tanker away from the road. Some of the wheels were on the grass, and as others were still on tarmac, and headed to the bush. People, and Yuchagwan is a very rich area. People are watching. When they saw the tanker, they thought it was having trouble. They stopped farming, went to their houses, looked for jerrycan, and ran. By the time he was coming from whatever he was doing, he found a crowd of people. But then the vehicle was not leaking. It had no problem. So what did he? He started pleading with them. He said, Gari na shida gani? What's the trouble? You know, he tried to explain he has no problem. They moved him aside. And you know their valves. Unfortunate thing is, the opening of the valve is wider than the average jerrycan. So, since there was no leaking, they broke a valve. And then they put the jerrycan. The trouble is, when you do that, the more fuel, 3/4 of the fuel is flowing out, only 1/4 is getting the jerrycan. And within no time, there was a river of water. They were fighting. So they broke all the 5 valves, and it became a proper river. Nobody knows how fire started. But you know something? If you know something about physics, you know that there is something they call the fire point. It means that in a normal system, even without a source of fire, you get to a point, a temperature, where the fire can start on its own. You get the point? And that's what happened. People think there was cigarette. There may not have been any cigarette. It's simply a change. And within no time, what happens? The fire started. If you are the kind of a person who understands the science of it, you know what happens? As soon as the fire starts, it follows wherever the fuel is, isn't it? Once your T-shirt is having fuel enough, the fire starts. If you remember what we saw on the fire, on the thing, people are running and were on fire. You remember? Of course, when Kibaki went to bury them, we talked about the people dying. But no poor person was dying. It was rich people who ordered free fuel. And that, by the way, those things are still happening. If we have a transformation we need to do, is to get that transformation Carson talks about, where you hate free things. Ephesians, the first Thessalonians chapter 4 is talking about that problem. Verse 11 and verse 12. Talking about people who want things, verse 11 actually talks about, they make it your ambition. And then verse 12 says, not to get anything that doesn't cost you, free things, in verse 12. And you need to understand, we need to bring a transformation where you do not want free things. And I want to ask the question, have we gotten there? Is there dignity in labor? The Bible is saying that God blesses the work of our hands. And that's really, I can't go on, my time is up. But those are the things that are concerning God. How shall we get to where we have responsible interdependence? Where we go to community, but you don't want free things that you have actually not worked for. And we can talk about justice. Justice for all. Freedom for all. God-centeredness. And we could go on. All things are things that are concerning God and are not happening in our society. I just want to open up because I've run out. I'm sure Richard will send my notes to people so that you have their emails, isn't it? So that I don't spend time talking about the things we can do and the socio-economic context that we need to deal about. Those are the things. If we can sort out those values, we'll end up with a Kenya where people are working and do not want free things, and instead they are producing. Can somebody just read what I quoted properly? Can somebody read for me 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11 and 12? Just read it loudly. These days the Bible is in our phone, so you can.
Says,
yeah.
And to aspire to live quietly, and to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands, as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one.
Make it your ambition not to be dependent on anyone. Any other version? Which version is that?
ESV.
Eh?
ESV.
Okay. Does somebody have another version?
NIV says, what is from verse 10 and verse 11?
Verse 11.
And to make it your ambition to lead a quiet life, you should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody.
So that you are not dependent on anybody. Epaphroditus in Philippians chapter 2 is being said, he was worried because he had heard that he was sick. The average Kenyan, once he is sick, he keeps asking, have you told you and so I'm sick? Because they want the whole clan to come to see him in hospital. Epaphroditus is wondering, oh, don't come. He was worried that we had heard that he was sick. Paul says he was actually sick to the point of death. Those are values, biblical values, we need to deal with. Where you do not want help. Galatians chapter 5 is saying, in chapter 5 it talks about that that we should, again you can read it from verse 1 to 5. Galatians 5 verse 1 to 5, just to hear what God is saying. The kind of values he wants us to have. Anybody with a verse? Read verse from verse 1. Galatians 5.
From verse 1. It
Yeah.
is for freedom that Christ has set you free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be bound again by the yoke of slavery.
Go on, not
Mark
about.
my words, I, Paul, tell you that if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will be of no value to you at all. Again, I declare to every man who lets himself be circumcised that he is obligated to obey the whole law. You who are trying to be justified by the law have been alienated from Christ, for you have fallen away from grace. For through the Spirit we eagerly
Then
wait.
go now to 6.
For in Christ Jesus, neither circumcision nor circumcision has any value. The only thing-
Galatians 6.
Yeah. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love.
Are you
Galatians 6 or Galatians 5?
Galatians chapter 6.
Oh, that was 5, sorry. Brother and sister, if someone is caught in a sin, that one?
Yes?
Yeah. You who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you may also be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ.
Go on.
If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone, without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load.
Thank you. Start by saying carry each other's load. Then it goes and says each one should carry his own load. And the whole message is, in this communal sense, we need to be seeking to help others without seeking others to help us. I've run out of time, but these are the issues that are causing trouble. Where you feel proud to be getting help, instead of wanting to help others without you yourself looking for help. Anyway, let's have a few discussions, issues, but I realize our time is up. But those are the values that are concerning God. When we have values that are not biblical, we end up without creating a community where others are looking to help others. We are looking to help others without ourselves looking to get help ourselves.